Line 6 Variaxes. Well, well, I'm making this video because no one else did, if you can believe it, actually. But if you dig around anywhere, no one has ever done a comparison between the what we call the Variax Hundreds series. So any of the Variaxes that don't have traditional magnetic pickups, you can see there's nothing here but the piezo's in the bridge. Those are what we'd call just the 100 series. And then there's the JTVs, Standards, and Shurikens. All those are going to be Variaxes that have passive magnetic pickups on the guitar, as well as the piezo systems that lie within the bridge. The bridge saddles. Anywho, yeah, for whatever reason, no one's ever done a comparison between these. Not really in any of the forums I've been digging through, and not on YouTube. And that's to my amazement, because what happened was, what came first were these normal Variaxes, our 100 series. At the time, they weren't called the hundreds, but these ones came out first. This one specifically is a 300. We'll get into the model differences eventually. But these came out first, and they had all the Variax technology. You could do a lot to these. You could even change the tunings electronically, like you can the standard Shuriken and JTVs. But you could only do that through a computer. Or maybe through a save process. That was something I never really tried with this. Anyhow, so these came out first, kind of in the way you see it, but then later came these JTVs. I couldn't tell you which one came first, but it was one of these, and they called them a JTV because that would be James Tyler Variax. So these Variaxes in particular just have the Variax electronics inserted into what were at the time just James Tyler guitar models. He's a well-known luthier, guitar luthier, and he has his own line of guitars right now. And they're all quite similar to these. It's just he doesn't make Variaxes. But Line 6 partnered up with him. They made a whole bunch of these into 3 different body shapes. You can see them here. It's the JTV 89. It came in 2 ways. There'd be the normal one and then one with a Floyd Rose. F has the Floyd Rose. So it's more of a like super strat kind of Ibanez jump thing. Then you have the JTV 69, which is what I have. JTV 69S has a single coil in the bridge, but otherwise the same as the 69. And then you'd also have the JTV 59. And the JTV 59 would come as, could also come as a P90 version, and I believe that's a JT59P, if I'm correct. But they were usually like a gold top Les Paul inspired guitar, and then the 69s were very Strat inspired, Stratocaster. Then shortly after those came out, we had received the Shurikens, which is a artist-specific model. I'm not too familiar with the modern heavy metal scene, but these 2 guitars were made for one specific artist out there who wanted the Variax technology. So they came out with these, and they come. It's the same guitar, but they come out in 2 styles. The 250, that is the 25.5 inch scale radius, I believe. You scroll down, yes, that's the case. And then the 2700, you can guess it's a 27 inch. It's kind of a baritone body. When you're looking at one of these in the store, the telltale is going to be the bout cutouts, the arm reliefs for the upper fret access. The 250, they're a lot more pointed, versus on the 270, each of these contours for hand access are a lot more round. But the 270 is going to be quite a bit longer. Then after that, The most recent edition is the Variax Standard. This came out a few years back, but it's been around the block now, so they're out there used, as common as new ones are. But for the most part, I believe the only ones you can still get new are the Shurikens and then the Standard. All these other ones in the middle, they don't really, I don't think they produce new anymore. Once in a while you can find new old stock, but kind of pushing your luck. But these hundreds models came in quite a few flavors. So we'll check out all those real quick. I got them all pulled up here on a laptop. So I believe the 300 was the first to come out, and it wasn't called 300 at the time or something like that, but they eventually called it that. The 300 right here, which is even same color and everything as my 300. They are the lowest spec out of all the Variaxes. I believe all the 300s, 500s, and 600s, I believe all of them are made in China or Korea. And then the 700s are typically made in Japan. And then all the JTVs, I believe, are made in Korea, unless you have a US model, which were quote-unquote handmade in USA. So if you're looking at two different types of JTVs, so you're looking at a Blue 69 and a Sunburst 69, but one's like $1,200 and the other one's only $800. That $800 one should be the Korean model, and that $1,200 model ought to be the USA model. And you can tell the USA models from a distance because at the end of the word Variax here, it'll say kind of small USA behind it. Any ones that don't, they're made elsewhere. So that's a kind of inside scoop on that. Anyhow, back to the 100 series. We have the 300 and 500, and here you can see both side by side. The body is essentially the same. The bridge is the same. Pick guard and control layout is where they get different, along with the neck. You can see that they go from the Strat style 6 in a line headstock to the more Les Paul style 3 per side headstock. And I believe they have a different neck profile. My uncle has a 500 and I think a 600. And on the 500, it has a flatter fretboard radius, and it feels a little thinner. At least back when I played it, it felt a little thinner up in the first few frets, but I could be wrong. I haven't played it in quite a while, but he still has it. But the control layout is different. You can see the 3 knobs are on the body instead of the pickguard with the 500. But with the 300, it's all on the pickguard. And then your output jacks all come out the side. Now here is a 600. The 600 is pretty much just the 300, but they replaced the fixed bridge with a tremolo. 2-point tremolo, still the same style, like how this is the Strat style fixed bridge. They just go to the Strat style tremolo. As far as the neck goes, I believe them to be the same, but I haven't played one. But all the 100 series are the same scale length, 25.5 inches. Then we get to the 700 series. These are the special dogs. These should all be a contoured body without pickguard. If I'm wrong, please do say so. I believe all of them are contoured bodies without pickguards, and they all have a tremolo. And they usually have special block inlays, kind of like this, instead of the dots that we see on the lesser models. And all of the 700s do have the 3 per side headstock. So then you can kind of see that the progression as far as price goes. You'd be 300's bottom of the barrel, 500 and 600 are kind of tied, probably 600 right below the 500 in my opinion. But then you jump straight up to 700. And then they're at the same time they're running these, And I should mention, I believe all the 700s were made in Japan, kind of handcrafted. But if I'm wrong, do say so. Running across these is rather difficult, and boy, they demand high prices. Then we got the acoustic models. The acoustic models came in a few different fashions. You had the 300, and the deal with the acoustics is they kind of all look the same, aside from the very rare 900s. The 900s were supposedly handmade in Japan, and they only made a batch of 50 or 250. It's quite a limited quantity, but they went all out when they did. With those, they have all custom inlays, they have custom bindings and decals, custom looking bridge piece. They have a lot of fancy stuff going on with them. But with the 300 models, I believe they could come in one and two ways. There's a steel string version and a nylon string version. Or maybe that's for the 700s. Again, the acoustic models are really hard to get a hold of. So knowing this info straight hand is kind of difficult because no one's done a comparison. Back when you could buy them, Line 6 might have shown them to you side by side, like in that JTV poster I have, but I haven't seen anything anywhere, hence this video. I only do this stuff if I have to. Anyhow, I believe there's a steel string version and a nylon string version of the 300. That might be the same case for the 700. But anyhow, with the 300, it doesn't really have all that much for Variax technology. It just has in the upper bout this interface here, where you can change a bunch of different sound characteristics of the guitar you're playing. It doesn't really have much for modeling, but you can save the sounds that you've liked. And that's all there is to it. The 300 is the bottom of the barrel as far as acoustics go. Next step up is the 700 acoustic. Here's where you actually have acoustic modeling. So like the other Variaxes, you can turn a knob, and you can see in the little crook here what model you're selecting. So there are some 12 strings. I believe there is a sitar model in there, and there's numerous acoustic guitar models. But then you can also play around with the mic position on each guitar, volume, and then some amount of compression with those. And there might be a way to save your models. I believe there's a custom bank or two, but it talks about it more. And then there's ways to go into alternate tunings if your guitar is so equipped. Because again, I'm not sure if all 700s are like that. This is just what resides inside the 700 manual. Anywho, lastly, for the 100 series, we have the basses. These are the 700 and 705 bass models. So the 700 would just be a 4-string bass, but the 705 would be the 5-string version. And as far as I can tell in photos, because that's all I have access to, the only difference is the string count. The neck appears to be identical otherwise. The thumb rest is in the same spot. The color scheme is the same. All the controls otherwise identical. The difference only seems to be that 5th string. And the I suppose I don't have that pulled up, but these have a unique control to them. These are still genuine Variaxes, and what goes on is I believe this is master volume. This is a blend knob, and then down here is your model selector, and then here is a stacked pot where you can control the bass and the treble. So I believe the top knob is treble and the lower one is bass, or vice versa. But anyhow, as you scroll through the bass models, most basses have 2 pickups, but some are acoustic, I should say. Some have 2 pickups, like the Fender Precision basses, and you can use the blend knob to favor the bridge or the neck, and then you can adjust your EQ with that bass and treble frequency adjust, which which is pretty sweet. Sadly, I've never played one of these either. These are extremely hard to come by. Whether you're looking for a 5-string or a 4-string, they're just not really out there. Or they are out there, but they're not frequently for sale. Yeah, and that's where we kind of end with the 100 series, and then we get into these. So all these are the models with passive magnetic pickups. Maybe the Shurikens have active humbuckers, but again, they do all have magnetic pickups to them in addition to the piezos. So while the 100 series had absolutely nothing in here, nothing, every single one, all of these, however, do. But the added bonus with all these JTVs, the standard, and the Shurikens is they have a control to digitally change your tuning. And it is pretty cool. And it works quite well, actually. So on the JTV 69s, it's kind of a thumb wheel thing, like these upper controls on a Jazzmaster or Jaguar. But on all the other models, it would just be a fourth knob here, fourth rotary knob, kind of like the Model Select ones for here, which the 300s, or actually all the 100 series except the 300 acoustic have. And it's all quite nice. And unlike these older ones, what you see is all there is. There's like a little dot as an indentation of which model you're selecting. And then you kind of have to remember what's what. But with these guys, they do have a light inside here, so they when you push this in to bypass the magnetic pickups and to go straight into the modeling, all of these here light up, and I believe the one you're using stays lit when the other one's shut off. And then same with the tuning. Once you go into drop D or half down, I believe that stays lit up. Anyhow, but it's a pretty cool feature. But yeah, all the other ones with magnetic pickups all have the same type of technology. The only thing that's kind of funny is with the JTV 59, it doesn't have a 5-way switch like all these other ones. So instead, you have a 3-way switch. Typical of a normal Gibson SG or Les Paul. And then how you go about reaching the other two positions is you have to press in your model knob or your alt tuning knob, one of those two, and then when you move the knob to the furthest, the outermost positions, that's how you reach what would have been 2 and 4, and then the middle position is still just the middle. Press the knob again, and then all the way back is 1, all the way up is 5, and in the middle, and then you press the knob again so you can have 2, middle, and 4. But it I don't quite find that ideal. I prefer the 5-way switch. If there was a way to modify that, I'd make that happen. But as far as circuitry goes and the onboard digital electronics go, these don't vary all that much. There's that control that I talked about with the 3-way switch of the 59 style, the Les Paul 3-way switch style. There's that. And then obviously here there's the scroll wheel instead of a traditional rotary knob for the tuning on the 69s, but it's otherwise electronically the same. Where the electronics differ, supposedly each one of these is kind of tuned to the body wood. So the 69, it has a different sound profile and an overall EQ shape for this body than one would be for the 89 or the Shuriken or the Standard or the 59. Each one of these different bodies has a unique overall EQ, and it's made kind of obvious when when you hook these up to the program, because what you have access to is Workbench, and when you hook up, it says which guitar you have. When I plug my JTV 69 into my computer, it recognizes that it's a JTV 69, and it'll program everything as such. Now, as far as models go and model access between all of these, with the JTV standard, the Shuriken, yeah, just those. So any of the ones with the magnetic pickups, they all kind of had the same functions, except for the JTV 89 and I believe the Shuriken. One of these tunings is changed out. I believe it's the Blues G or the Rezo G. One of those is changed out for like a drop C thing, or maybe it's I don't know what it is, but it's a tuning that I don't use because it's typically for like heavy metal. It's a low drop tuning, but they have that. They have that change, but otherwise, I think each of the models among all of each of the guitar models among all of the magnetic pickup guitars are the same. Now with the 100 series, with the 300, the 500, 600, and 700 guitars, all the models are the same. When you get into the acoustics, like I said, those are very different because they're mostly acoustic-based models. But all these have the same exact thing going on, whether you're looking at a 300, 500, 600, or 700. It's all the same stuff, same. Even each of the 5 positions on each of these banks, it's all the same. However, when you look at these two side by side, that's where some differences pop up. For instance, in the Telecaster model, which would be on this guitar, that would be, I believe it says T model or T style. T model. On this one, I believe it still says T model. Yep, which it does. First position is Tele humbucker on both. Middle position is the middle position of a normal Telecaster with 2 single coils. Uppermost position is the next single pickup of a normal Telecaster. However, when you go down to the second position, this one has the bridge pickup of a Telecaster Deluxe. One of the ones that has like, they're either humbuckers or they're pickups that look like humbuckers, where there's 3 pole pieces down here and then 3 pole pieces up here. That humbucker, so it's that in the bridge position on number 2. But on this one, it is a bridge pickup of a thin line Telecaster, a semi-hollow body Telecaster with 2 single coils. Then we go up to the 4th position. There's a little bit of misknown clarity here. Sometimes this is the Esquire position, where, because the Fender Esquire has a bridge pickup here, but there's absolutely nothing here. So what happens is when you move it past the bridge pickup model, you have the bridge pickup run through a capacitor to ground, so it's like rolling your tone back off to 0. I believe this guitar has that here, but in the manuals, if you look, it should say that you just have the neck single coil of a hollow body thin line Tele, or semi-hollow body thin line Tele. Anyhow, but then this one in the 4th position, you have the neck humbucker of a Telecaster Deluxe or something of that nature. So the sounds are comparable, but they are quite different. It's still set up so that furthest down is brightest tone, and then highest up is darkest tone, and then middle spot is somewhat neutral. That's how they're still set up in every single one of these banks. Even though that the sounds on each of those 5 spots are different. That becomes very apparent when you get into the Lester model on these guys, where this one is just a Les Paul, but then here it's some sort of special wiring, and then it's otherwise just a different bridge and neck humbucker, different neck, and then a neck humbucker. But on this guy, it utilizes something kind of special, where it's bridge of Les Paul. Now it's a 3 pickup, 3 humbucker Les Paul. Then we're at the middle position of any Les Paul. This top one is something special that I can't remember, and then up there's just a neck humbucker. And then same once you get to special, on each of these, one has like a Les Paul Junior and a Les Paul Special, and this other one, it's mostly Les Paul Specials, with 2 Gibson Firebirds, but this one's only got 1 Gibson Firebird. Stuff like that. And it's like that in a couple other banks, but like I said, overall, the variety is similar and extremely comparable, even though each specific sounds are quite different. Now, as far as hardware and construction goes, these play quite comparably. They both have the same scale length of 25.5. They both have 22 frets. These 2 in particular both have a rosewood type fingerboard. This one might be Indian rosewood because it's a little lighter, but this one's quite dark for rosewood. Interestingly, I believe both of the neck widths are the same at the nut, but on the 300 here, the string spacing is a little bit narrow than what the JTV has, despite the necks being equally wide here. This one just feels more narrow, and I believe that's mostly just due to the slightly narrower string spacing. I should mention I have switched out the nut on this one. Someone had already replaced the black Graphtec nut, so I had to resource a white Graphtec blank, filed that down correctly, installed it. It's quite nice, but it is spaced out like the originally was, to perfection. I don't mean to brag. Tuners. Apparently, on the American models, they would have left the factory with some sort of locking tuner. But this one is a Korean model, so it should have just had normal cheap tuners like these guys are. I believe they would have been the same exact spec as these 100 models. But someone's went and changed these out for hit shots. Right now they're staggered, which is a good idea, because on these JTV 69s, there's no string tree. So the shorter you can make all the posts, the better. Because there's not much for brake angle on these. Neck feel, they're pretty comparable. This one, it's a very soft, extremely soft V. It's probably a shallow D shape, I believe. And this guy, it's a little bit meatier in this direction, a little bit thicker. But otherwise, they're quite comparable. They have the same feel. They have a very similar finish, which just feels great. It's very slick. The frets on the Hunt, at least on the 300 series, they're a little thinner than what's on the JTVs and standards. On that comparison I showed with all the pickup models, I believe all of them have medium jumbo frets or just mediums, while these guys are just a tad on the thin side. And actually see it from here, or maybe it doesn't come across the camera, but these frets are a bunch wider. String spacing, the same. The models that have a tremolo, I've never played any of them, but I imagine they're real comparable to these. The JTV 69 tremolo is just so nice. There's next to zero friction in here. You can hear a little bit of sound there. Someone wrapped heat shrink around the springs, and I need to remove that and instead insert a different quieting device that actually is silent versus this that has gentle, kind of like a squeaky shoe. Anyhow, build construction between these is quite comparable. For how affordable these 300s are, they're very nice. These are like upper end Squire. Maybe comparable with something like a Mexican Strat. And these are definitely Mexican Strat territory. Maybe even a step above that. This plays so nice. So good. The outlets, they are a little bit different. On all these higher end models, they do have a cover that covers up the, well, it's just a RG or RJ45 Ethernet port that allows you to hook up to your computer via interface, or depending on your Line 6 hardware, you could hook it up to a pod floor, which is what these guys do. These ones, they're newer, so they hook up to one of the helixes, but then also maybe the pods. I don't have either, so I'm not adept in either. But otherwise they're the same, besides these old ones not having a cover. With these non-magnetic models, they take a different type of battery. You can see the backs are quite different. On these guys, they house some additional electronics behind this cover, while on these 100 series is kind of all underneath the pickguard, unless you have a model that like the 500 or the 700 where most of the controls are just mounted straight to the body. Then the whole backside would have even more plastic shrouding than this. This is the battery cavity. Down here I've from the factory, they have a 9-volt battery adapter piece here. And what they leave with from the factory is a little fixture that allows you to place 6 AA batteries inside a plastic clamshell. And then you hook that up to your 9-volt connector here, and you're supposed to play through that. The Line 6 also had a rechargeable battery pack, and it would plug in straight to that 9-volt receptacle. The problem is people lose that clamshell over time, and then you're stuck using just 9-volt batteries, because I can't find the rechargeable ones. But you really don't want to anyways, because these eat batteries like the frickin' dickens. If you put a 9-volt in here, you're only going to get about 20 minutes of playtime. No joke. So, after finding that out, I wired in an additional power source. So, while you're playing, you can actually, well, with this particular guitar, you can get a 9-volt power supply, or I think even up to 12 volts, something like that. But 9 volts is perfectly safe. You run the wire through here, close this up after you plug it into your port, and then you can jam all night. Otherwise, you can use an external power supply. We'll talk about those later. But all the magnetic pickup guitars, since they are a newer model, they have newer tech. These actually have unique batteries. And now they're actually not so unique. Sony camcorders and similar videotape recorders actually utilize these batteries now. So they're kind of commonplace. If you look around on eBay, you can get aftermarket ones of these quite affordable. And aftermarket chargers if need be. But you get these guys, and they're pretty nice. They last a long time. But you set it in here like so. It shows you how to put it in. And once you got it in, you slide it in. I'm not going to do that just because I don't want to have to fight it back out. I do have a power supply. Once you put it in, you can press this button, and each of these 5 dots will glow for how strong your battery is. As it gets weaker, oh, sorry, only 4 dots. As it gets weaker, it will glow less and less dots. When you're down to 1 and it's blinking, you're at the end of your charge. But these won't take any other type of battery. You can't put a 9-volt to them. You can't use the 6 AA pack. And what I did with this one, because I didn't have the 6 AA pack fixture, what I used was I happened to have an 8 AA pack plastic fixture. So I used that, and that worked quite well. It powered the guitar, no problem. So you can use 8 AA's all wired, I believe, in just series. Maybe 4 of them are in parallel to the other 4. I don't quite remember. But anyhow, it's a pretty common thing. If you really struggle to find any other battery supply for these, 8 AA's will make this last something like 3-4 hours. When I used it last, I got it like an hour and a half, hour 40 minutes out of it. It's an impressively long time. But geez, don't throw 9 volts in here. It even says in the manual somewhere not to use 9 volts, only as a last resort, because you blow through them crazy fast. I kid you not, a 9 volt will only last you 20 minutes in here. That's not good. We're talking 4 to 6 songs. So you better have a small set if you're only using a battery. But these batteries are much more practical. But still, I don't even favor that. What you do instead is you hook up to one of these guys. It's a Line 6 XPS. This one in particular is the Mini, but they do make a more rugged version. It's more comparable in size to like my Trio Plus here, but it's got one lone button on it and allows you to switch between a 1/4-inch output and an XLR output. So that way you can run your Variax into like an acoustic PA, into a PA like you're running acoustic guitar through a PA. But with this is so nice. All you need to power the guitar is just a 1/4-inch TRS cable, which is tip ring sleeve. So it's just a stereo instrument cable. Plug that into your guitar, and this guy, once you plug it into the outlet, flip a couple switches. Hey, look at that. You got that red light on, you got power. I believe if you unplug it, it doesn't show anything, so make sure you have the cable plugged in before you freak out about it. And that works extremely well. Now, supposedly, if you run what they call a VDI cable, which is just an RJ45 with a metal sleeve around it, kind of like a microphone XLR cable, you plug that into the bottom of either of these guitars and then run it into like your Helix or your Pod or some other kind of Line 6 multi-effects floor pedal. That supposedly will power these, but I don't know if that's the case, because I've noticed that when you plug either of these into the computer, these will only power on, and the computer will only recognize one of these until it's powered on if you have a battery in them, or if you have them plugged into a onboard power supply. That kind of lies some problems, because if you want to run it into your computer and you don't have any kind of power supply for these, you're stuck. Especially with these magnetic pickup ones, if you don't have the special batteries, you don't have any batteries. If you don't have the power plug-in, you don't have any power for these, which means you're not going to have any sound coming out of it even when you plug it into the computer. And then insult to injury, when you plug it into the computer, you have to have a 1/4-inch plug going into the guitar to turn it on. These are kind of like guitar pedals. These only turn on if there's a cord going into them. Unless you're using one of the Line 6 pedal assemblies where you can use the VDI, which is just the RJ45. I mean, all it is just RJ45 Ethernet cable. You can plug this right in your guitar, it works fine. Line 6 interface. Nothing too crazy. But you need to have that plug. You need to have a 1/4-inch line plugged into your guitar for it to turn on, so then your computer can say, your Variax, it is turned on, it is working, we can read it. And then from there, sky's the limit again. Now, problems with these guys, with these, all the magnetic pickup guitars, all of the workbench, that's what Line 6 calls their online software for these, where you can tweak the models, you can customize it any which way you want. These you have full access to on any operating system, which is sweet. The only trick is your guitar has to have firmware 2.0 or higher, and that's how you reach Workbench HD, which is the current model, which is this here. What sucks with the older ones is you only have access to the normal fingerprints. Terrible. You only have access to the normal Workbench, not the HD model. And then to run that, Line 6 kind of abandoned support for that. You can still get that software for Windows 7 and older or 8 and older. I think it's Windows 8 and older. I tried it just this morning, and you can only get for Windows 8 or older, because it's pretty old now. But it's just the normal Workbench, not HD, like these guys take, but the normal Workbench. But the problem is you need to download some form of Java to finish installing the program and then run it. The problem with that is I'd have to buy it. So now I have to spend extra money on it, versus these guys, where you register your guitar, get it for free. It's nice, and you only have to download the one thing, and just Workbench HD. Have the USB to RJ45 interface, have an RJ45 cable, have something to power your guitar, plug it in with a 1/4-inch cable. Boy, that's a lot of work. As much as it sounds, that is a lot of work. Plug it all in, and then boom, you can play with your guitar remote, which is sweet. You can change every single setting, and the sky is the freaking limit with this. Here you can see one of the last things I was playing with. I had in one of my custom Strat bodies. Yeah, I had a Stratocaster body with a P90 and bridge, P90 in the middle, pretty close to the bridge, but then like a Filtatron pickup up in the neck. And it's just so cool because sky is the limit. And then as soon as you hit upload, it'll upload whichever spot you're highlighted on, and it'll upload that bank to your guitar in about, it takes half a second. You'll hear electronic of all the micro frequencies transmitting to the guitar and back. And then you'll hear that out of whatever amp you're plugged into, which is sweet. So it is kind of real time. And then as you cycle through each of the models and then move your selector through each of the positions, even change your tunings, you'll see all that here in real time. And you'll hear it out of your amp still in real time. It is the bee's knees. It's really cool. People rave about it because it is really cool. And it's so nice because with the HD, the ones with the magnetic pickups, you can go in and alter all your tunings. And I believe you can do that with the 100 series guitars. But you don't have a knob to change that on the fly like you do these guys. And That's one of the huge differences between these. When you're looking to get one of these guys, those are the big things, and they're obvious. Big neck pickups, just the active digital electronics. This one already also has the active digital electronics. This one also has the altered tunings. These ones do not. But build quality, very comparable. I'd have no problem picking up either of these and rocking. It's kind of odd. I prefer this neck, but I prefer this one's fret axis. It's got better contours on the back to reach upper frets, but this one it's just cut out more. But the feel around here is only slightly more slim. It's not a big deal, but there's so much more functionality with these. And right now, the winter of 2023, it's so weird. Right now, these 100 series, they've been going up in value, which is odd. For years, they had been dropping. I got this one back in 2014 for like $220. It was really nice, and it's still really nice. Still plays great. Everything about it is just awesome. I just have 3 little dents on it, and you can only see one from up front. But now this one today is worth something like $350, $400, and this is the bottom of the barrel Variax. The bottom. I got it for $220 years ago, 2014. Versus this JTV. At the time, it was about a $900 guitar still, but it was a lot younger by then. This one, I believe, is like a 2013 model. Who knows how old this one is? It's definitely older than 14. They stopped production of these while these were halfway through their production cycle. So in a Venn diagram, these came first. These overlapped, and then they added the standard, which overlapped these, but now it's kind of only the standard and the shuriken, and these are just done. Everything here backwards is just done. But yeah, at the time this was $900, but now these have dropped down quite a bit. This one, with everything I got with it, was $800, and dropped a bunch. While these have gone up to $350, $400. It's like, why? Why? This is the superior equipment, man. This is the better bang for the buck, and these are still dropping. I just didn't want to miss the boat. These had started going, and even Variax standards started going for only about $700. Some as low as $650. While these have been selling right now for $350 to $500. That price gap is just it's hard to justify to not spend the extra $200-ish on this when you have the digital tuning, which is sweet, and the magnetic pickups. So even when your battery is dead or you don't have any kind of power supply, you can plug this into any amplifier and it's still an electric guitar, versus this one, which sadly it just won't make any sound unless you want to put a microphone in front of it. But this is not a bad guitar. These are awesome. These are kick-ass for what they are, especially back when you could get them for only $200. Boy, that's a crap load of value. But when these are almost same in price, why wouldn't you spring for that? It's so much better equipped. Even though the quality is comparable, why wouldn't you? So it's kind of funny now, because as we watch these, that's how I got this one. They've been dropping down in value for a while now, and I wanted to jump on the bus before I missed it. And then while these are going up, I'm going to sell this one, because I don't need it anymore. I don't really need 2 Variaxes. The thing with Variaxes is the only reason why you'd have multiple is in case you need a spare on stage, or you like the neck profile of one for one thing you play, but you really like the neck profile of the other one for other things you play. I see a lot of people who have a standard or a 69 and they have a 59 or the 89 because each one of them has a severely different neck profile to them, and fretboard radius, I believe. Both of these might just be 12-inch. Anyhow, yeah, so that's kind of these in a nutshell, and it's interesting. No one's really made a in-depth comparison like I did. No one's even done a shallower one than I've done. And it's just odd because these are sweet guitars. As far as the digital modeling goes between each of these, this one actually kind of seems to have the better modeling. I don't know if it's because the bridge is fixed, but this one, these 100 series do seem to have slightly better modeling, and I do have both of these updated to the current firmware. This one came that way when I got it, but I plugged it in, checked. Same with this one. I've had this since 2014. I plugged it in today to check, and it's got the newest, whatever it was. It's got the newest firmware on each of these, and this one is a little better. But it's obviously short a lot of extra features that the magnetic pickups just already come with from the factory. So it's pretty interesting. If you have a shot at getting any of the Variaxes, do it. Just confirm that you can have some sort of power supply. You're going to need that, whether it's whether you like to use batteries or if you want to plug into the wall. Either's perfectly fine. I just prefer the plug-in route because batteries have been pains in the butt with these older ones. When you put a recyclable battery in there, like a 9-volt or a bunch of double A's, once the voltage gets down below X%, these start phasing in and out. Sound will appear and disappear out of these as they're trying to get the last little bit of batteries, because these will only use about 85% of the battery. The other 15% is not enough to even make sound with those. These guys, I think it's the similar case. It's just the new battery style that comes in these is far more potent, so they last a lot better, and even when you get down towards the bottom of the battery, these still cut out. Sound will come and go, but I don't believe it to be as bad as the older versions. But I prefer the power supply because all of the power runs through one cable. And what's cool, I recently found out, is if you want to run a different guitar, all you have to do is you unplug this cable from your Variax, turn the power supply off or unplug it. You'll want to do that because you don't want to be putting 9, 10, 12 volts, whatever it is, into your passive electronics. Plug this into your guitar. It'll still pass sound through the tip. You plug this into any guitar, it'll pass sound through the power supply box, which is so cool. So then when I'm playing, all I have to do is pull this out, and then sometime I'm going to make a stop switch for this guy so that I can turn power off to that ring. Once I do that, you can plug this into any guitar you want. You just keep rocking without even having to change a chord. You just unplug, plug back in, done. This is the nicest thing because you don't have to worry about any of that. And even the XPS Mini, which is bottom of the barrel and power supply for these, they work on all of the Variaxes. And they're extremely reliable. I've had this XPS Mini plugged in and playing through it for 6 hours straight, no problem. So they're extremely robust. You can't do that with a battery. At some point, you'd have to change the battery. But Line 6 says that you should be able to get something like, I don't know, 4, 6, 8 hours out of these guys. Then you got to change them. But with that, don't even worry. Don't need to charge anything. Don't need to change anything out, which means no finicking with anything on stage. You just plug it in and you're done. It's even better when you have two Variaxes, because if your one Variax dies, pull out the cable, stick it in the other one, rock. Don't have to change anything. But yeah, so that's kind of what these are all about. It's it's sweet. And like I said, if you can't get the upper tier guitars, don't worry about it. Get the lower ones. These are awesome. It's just right now, the winter 2023, those are so little more in price than these that not getting that would be a foolish venture right now. But these are still superb. They're fantastic. I absolutely love mine. It's just with this one, I can get rid of one of my Strats because this has 3 pickups, like my Strat does at home. And it has all the Variax technology, which means I don't need this Variax anymore. So 2 guitars have suddenly become 1. Because I do have other guitars. These are my Variax. That is usually my main guitar when I'm playing out. When I'm jamming and enjoying myself, playing in the company of friends, or just trying to record something, these aren't always my go-to. If I need a specific sound, these will do that. But my go-to guitars are a 2 humbucker Stratocaster and then a 2 humbucker PVT-60, which right now are insane amounts of money. Boy, that happened out of nowhere. Anyhow, so yeah, I do have other guitars, and when these fill 2 pairs of shoes, hey, that's a lot better than what is almost a one-trick pony. But don't let that discount it, because boy, there's so much with these. The one without magnetic pickups has 50 models in it. It's just that the ones with magnetic pickups, they have 50 models plus 5, so 55, plus something like 8 different tunings, 12 different tunings. It's a lot. It just makes your options exponentially more gigantic. But yeah, we're excited to see this one go to a new home, and if they drop back down in price, maybe I'll get another one. But I'd love to have another one of these guys, real affordable, and throw the guts in a guitar that I like the looks of a little bit more. And these 69s aren't ugly, but the whole pickguard thing's not quite my bag. And it sure seems like that roller switch is sure made to be in a Jaguar or a Jazzmaster. So maybe I can put the guts of one of these into that, for instance. But I've let the video go on long enough. There are other videos out there on each of the specific sounds of these, and then how they compare with the real things that they're trying to model. And then there's how-tos on how to use each of the workbenches. But because all that exists, I don't really need to go over it with you guys. There are people who do that far better than I do, but I find it weird that no one's done a comparison between these. It's a shame. But hey, now it's done. If I still have this around, I might do a video with these 2 plus my uncle's 2 guitars, which is a Variax 600 and then the 500. So then we can shoot out kind of all 4 of these. And I am looking at getting a standard along with this one, or a JTV 89F if I can find one of them. They're like impossible to find. Or a 59P, the P90s. Again, kind of like impossible to find. So I am thinking about getting another magnetic pickup Variax. And if I do that, well, then I'd have 2 magnetic pickup Variaxes to compare with 200 series Variaxes. That would be sweet. Or if I could find a acoustic model, bass model, that'd be cool. Anyhow, thanks for letting me take some of your time. I hope you enjoyed. Wish I had more guitars for you, but hey, you got to start somewhere. Thanks, guys.